best recovery modality that you could possibly ever have. You know what it is? It's so simple. It's literally, for this week's YouTube video, we are coming live to you from my new gaff. Not a whole lot in here yet. It's being painted, it's been decorated, carpets. I must admit, I'm doing very little of that. It's mostly Ellie, her dad, my dad, just everyone but me. But today we are a week past since I did Hyrox. Today's video is not necessarily about Hyrox, it's about post-event, post-race recovery. Like, how do we recover quickly? How do we recover well? How do we get back to doing what we want to do, the next training block, as soon as we possibly can, but in the best condition that we possibly can? We're going to talk about nutrition for recovery. We're going to talk about what you should be doing with your training. We're going to talk about some recovery modalities, and we're going to talk about this one thing that every single person overlooks when it comes to recovery. Hang around to that part of the video to find out what that is. And then how to plan, how to reflect, and how to get the next training block right. Without recovery, there's no adaptation. It's important, don't forget that. When it comes to getting post-event recovery right, there are a couple different things that you can consider when making food choices. I potentially think this is a really good opportunity, especially in the day or two after the event, to go and eat some tasty food. Like, go and eat stuff that's maybe high in calories, go out for a meal, go out for a takeaway, go and actually enjoy yourself, because there's a good chance that throughout the training for the event, you were actually maybe being pretty dialed in with your nutrition. You maybe didn't potentially go out for that pizza, you maybe didn't have that ice cream. That's what I do anyway. I always use the day or two after to book a meal, have a takeaway, have a Chinese, have a pizza, have some Ben & Jerry's, because I've trained hard and I deserve it. From a scientific point of view, this is actually probably a good time to get more calories in, because your glycogen stores could be depleted, you could be needing a lot of protein, and this could be possibly the best time to add in calories. However, when I'm trying to get back on it in the week following, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting my protein in, I'm getting my healthy fats in, and I'm getting some solid carbohydrate in, there are some foods that I'll always go for. I'm always trying to make sure that I get some healthy fats in, some saturated fats. And typically the sources of foods that I'll get that from things like avocado, nuts, salmon, eggs. These are all really good fat sources, but also protein sources as well. I will make sure that I'm getting antioxidants in. I pick fruits which typically have like an anti-inflammatory profile, things like cherries, blueberries, raspberries, those sorts of fruits. Currently I've been using a company called Prep to Plate from Glasgow, who have been supplying me with meal prep, and this is just going to be things like protein source, carbohydrate source, some sort of veg, and this just keeps things nice and easy, gets me back to basics without having to overthink it, without having to go and do a massive shop. I've pretty much got like all the food that I need. If I have eggs, if I have sourdough, if I have oats, if I have berries, if I have fruit and some veg, and I've got my meal prep, I'm sorted. After you finished your event, after you finished your race, you're going to want to sit down and reflect and plan. Decide what went well, decide what didn't go so well, put a plan of action in place for the next time, what you're going to do differently with recovery next time, what you're going to do differently with your training, what you're going to do differently with your nutrition. You may want to sit down with your coach to do that. If you've got one, you may want to sit down with a pen and paper and do that. You may just want to write out some ideas about how things will be better next time, because during recovery, reflection is always the best time to do it. Reflection and recovery go hand in hand together, and if you don't do either of those things, then I'm telling you right now, the next training block is just not going to be as good. Now here's the one that nobody thinks about. The best recovery modality that you could possibly ever have. You know what it is? It's so simple. It's literally just doing the thing that relaxes you the most. That's not a cold water bath, that's not a sauna, that's not a massage, that's not foam rolling, that's not some funky supplement. It's literally just something that makes you relax. Figure out what that thing is. So for me, very personal, it's sitting down, watching the football, uninterrupted, just generally chilling. Unless that's watching Celtic, that is not usually that relaxing. That involves a lot of stimulation and me shouting at the TV. It's going out for a coffee, it's going out for a brunch, it's spending time with your family. And the reason that these things are good is because it switches you off from your fight or flight system, from your sympathetic nervous system, which is constantly switched on. It's constantly wondering what the next threat is. What's the next bit of stress that's going to come around in my life? What's the next thing I need to do for work? What's the next training program I need to do? When do I need to be to the gym? Oh my God, I've got this bill coming out. What is the thing that switches you off the best from that? That is potentially the best recovery modality that you can get. And a really good way to do this, and sometimes you could potentially plan this in strategically, is actually taking a little bit of time off after an event, or even better, if you can, go on a little break, go on a little holiday. It's going to be the best thing for you post-event because you're not then just instantly switched back onto the rat race. I made that mistake last week. I did Hyrox on Thursday and I was up at 5:30 the next morning for my next PT session. Potentially, I could have taken Friday off and then just relaxed into the weekend. Would my recovery have been better? I almost guarantee you it would have been. But no, I was switched back on straight away to work, straight away to what I had to be doing. There was still stress. If high stress is present, recovery is slowed down. Because we need to remember that recovery isn't just physical. It isn't just, oh, my legs are still sore. It's also psychological. Then we've got active recovery. I truly believe that active recovery was a process invented by chronic overexercisers who can't handle having one day off, aka me. I kind of like the premise of active recovery because it allows you to scratch that itch of exercise or activity without actually causing too much fatigue. But like I made the point in the last section, that sometimes switching off from physical exercise and stress can be the one thing that you need to do. But in between events, after events, in between training sessions, sometimes doing something light can be beneficial and can be advantageous. Reason being, if you went back 20 years ago, a lot of the advice around recovery was all about putting your feet up and doing nothing. We used to have the RICE acronym, which was rest, ice, compress and elevate. Now this is more relevant for injuries, but it typically used to be the advice with post-event, just literally put your feet up and do nothing, which maybe isn't bad advice, but a lot of what's talked about now is get your legs moving as soon as possible the next day or the day after. And that could be things like going for a walk, it could be things like a light cycle, it could be things like swimming, which is really good because the joint forces through the ground that you get from running and other sort of activities like that are not there in the pool. People may also recommend things like saunas, things like ice baths. The good thing about ice baths are obviously the lowering of inflammation within the joints and the muscles. The sauna is a good option for recovery if you find it relaxing. If you don't find it relaxing and you find it super stressful and really hard to stay in that sauna for the amount of time that you want to, then that is not recovery. And that can be a very individual thing, and it can very much be based on how often you use the sauna and how used you are to those heats. So this is my favourite version of active recovery. I get the pram, I go out for a walk, and I just take it nice and easy. I maybe go out for half an hour, I maybe go out for an hour, I get the legs moving, I get the blood flowing, I get my circulation going again, and typically it's two things. One, it's helping me recover because it's getting blood flowing again. And then two, well, today I can get a bit of sunlight. And then three, it's just nice. Like, it's just relaxing. It feels quite nice to just walk around Forfar and just spending a little bit of time with the young man, who I think is sleeping right now. Yeah, he's sleeping. Another thing with recovery that some people maybe don't consider is having a flexible training week in the week after the event or the race. I've personally just done this. My event was on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I had football on Saturday, I rested Sunday, and then for the next week, before I've established which my next training plan is going to be and what it's going to look like, I just decided to have a flexible week. I didn't perhaps do as much training. I tried a few different things that I might want to do in my next training block. A lot of the training that I did was quite light, it was quite easy. I did a little bit of bodybuilding movements, just some movements that feel nice, they feel easy, they feel enjoyable. Not a lot of the super tough stuff. And again, psychologically, that can be beneficial because you're not then just jumping back into a super hard training block. And you give your body just that time to actually recover, recuperate, but still training because you like training and because it feels good. Next time you finish a really hard training block, I would actually recommend giving this a go. Practice a few things that you might have in your new training block. Do some stuff just for the actual fun of it. I did some light running, I did some swimming, I was at the sauna, I did some chest movements, some more chest movements, and some bicep movements. I didn't do any hard running sessions, I didn't do any hard Hyrox sessions because just went like 3 months balls to the wall of doing that. So I've allowed myself a little bit of time to recover and a little bit of time to rest before I jump back into the next thing. Finally, I'm on the rowing machine. This is quite good actually. Finally, a shout out to our sponsor, Fraser's Body Shop, who has been sponsoring the YouTube channel now for just over 3 weeks. Thanks again, mate. Next week's video, you're going to be live from Heriot-Watt University, where me and Rory test our VO2 max and lactate threshold. I hope you're looking forward to it.